get guys, let's get right in starting with this game. I think the topic of the week, it's pretty obvious when you have a team that puts up well over, I think it was 484 total yards of offense. You have a quarterback that throws for 369 yards. You have 120 yards rushing, and you only get one touchdown on the day, and you lose by 5 points, and you go 1 for 6 in the red zone. There's going to be a lot of questions. Who's to blame here? Is it Mike White? Is it the receivers? Is it Michael Floor, the play caller? I think we got to jump all over and just start in. James, as the resident guest here, I'll give you the floor first. Go ahead and just tell me what would be your first instinct as the problem for the Jets offense, because I wouldn't say there was too many. Like I said, you got over 480 total yards, but only 22 points, with most of that coming off field goals, is not going to do it in the NFL.
Oh, no doubt about it. I guess the culprit, I never like putting it on the offensive coordinator, but I'm going to start there because it starts at the top. And he's the guy calling the shots. So obviously we know when you get down to the red zone, you kind of get in the nitty gritty. There's not as much room. There's not as much space. And we saw a lot of, obviously on the 1 yard line, we're in an empty formation, kind of just to pick out a couple plays here. The 3rd and goal towards the end there, Garrett Wilson, I think he falls down. But ultimately you kind of, you're in an empty formation anyway, probably not, the best type of situation, but one of your 3rd and goal plays from the 1 can't be a play where there's essentially a 0% probability of, an incompletion due to execution there. But what I would love to see, or would have loved to see in the red zone, is a little bit more of calling plays where, there's some traffic. And by traffic, if we're doing, if we're going to pass the ball, maybe we get a bunch of formation guys creating pick plays for some wide receivers. But also, the use of motion in a different sense than the Jets have been kind of using it in the last couple of weeks. And, maybe using a jet motion, to get a guy in the flat, get the quarterback out of the pocket, something towards the front pylon even. We kind of went away from the inside run game early on, then tried to go to it at the end of that, at the end of the game there after the 2-minute warning. Didn't really work. But ultimately, I'm going to put it on LaFleur, because I think at the end of the day, guys got to be put in better positions. But there are, a Braxton Berrios potential drop there at the end. There are other guys. It is a team effort, but if we're going to put it on someone to say, hey, this guy has to be better, I think it starts at the top to put these guys in better positions at that, and that crunch time at the end where the field is really short. You got to not only be creative, but you got to kind of stick also to the basics and just let these guys do what they do.
You said something key there, put people in better positions. I would like to put better people on the field. As much as I love Berrios, I don't see why he is getting the majority of these snaps in these high pressure situations when we need the best on the field at that time. Every single pass that went to Berrios, I feel like it should have gone to Moore. He is a dynamic playmaker who we drafted high for a reason, because he's dependable as a receiver. He's got great hands. When it comes to that 4th down play, I just keep thinking in my head, like, I wish Moore was getting this pass and not Berrios. Like I said, for as much as I love Berrios, I like him more as a return man and as a spot guy here and there. But there's a reason why Moore was so highly drafted. And we've seen his talent on display continuously. I know he was in the doghouse for a while, but at the same time, I'd like to see him more in these situations.
Yeah, I don't entirely disagree with you, Matt, but I do want to counter you a little bit here, because I want to start by saying I don't think Elijah Moore would be a bad option on those type of plays. And I'm not trying to say anything against that. He is a great athlete. He has some experiences, taking carries in the backfield in college as a running back. He was used in that sort of gadget way before. We saw him as a rookie scores. I'm pretty sure it was his first NFL touchdown on an end around play. So we've seen what he can do. He even had a play in this game against Minnesota where he picks up a first down by making 2 guys miss to the front side and getting behind him and getting upfield. So I don't want to disagree and say, I don't think Elijah Moore can do that. But I think you're downplaying Berrios a little bit. And I think that Berrios in particular, the one thing about him that at least on these type of plays that makes him really effective is the same reason he's a really good kick and punt returner, his vision and his ability to cut on a dime. Where for these end arounds specifically, when you can be going full speed horizontally and you're running parallel to the line of scrimmage, and I know we've seen him do this a couple of times this year. I want to say it was in the Miami game, and I think he had another one against Denver where he's taken one of those end arounds and he's going full speed to the edge. He's trying to draw as much, attention from the defense as he can. And in like one or two steps, he's able to completely and totally shift his direction and go from completely horizontal and parallel to the line of scrimmage to upfield and vertical and cutting into lanes that are there that I don't think anybody else on the team could hit, quite honestly. As good as Elijah Moore is, as explosive as Elijah Moore is, I don't think he is that quick in his change of direction and his ability to cut at full speed and maintain speed on top of just having the vision to see the lanes in the first place. My issue to take, from everything from what all of you have said, and I do agree with most, if not all of what all of you have said, minus the Berrios, I think the main issue here is getting into the red zone and not working your strengths. Where we've seen a lot of this college offense, end around motion stuff. It's worked sometimes for the Jets. It's also been some of their worst plays. And I think it's the timing of you get into the red zone. We saw on one drive in particular, I believe it was in the third quarter, where they get a big explosive pass play over the middle of the field off a play action, under center play action to Garrett Wilson. That gets them down the field. They pick up another few yards and they get into the red zone. And their first play out of that red zone sequence is the tunnel screen to Berrios. And yes, Braxton Berrios takes a bad cut, and that's a play you can absolutely get on him for going to the outside when the play is designed for him to take it inside. And he probably has room to just follow his blockers and get upfield. Instead, he makes an ill-advised cut back to the outside. George Fant's trying to block the guy who's now running the opposite direction and ends up a block in the back. The timing of that call for me is completely and totally out of left field. And the one thing that I saw from LaFleur, where Matt, you're going to make a point here. I don't want to steal it from you because I know we've been talking off air and this has been a point you've been saying. So I want to credit you with this first and foremost. This was a team loss. And there was factors of this that on every aspect, whether you can start with the defense early in the game, receivers dropping passes. White was, for the most part, very accurate and very on, but had a couple of things that he missed that could have been big plays, miscues from Michael Flora. There was issues from the whole team. But as the play caller, when you have momentum, when your offense is generating explosive plays, when you're trying to mount a comeback, when you're trying to make a statement to this team on the road that they do have to fear you and they're not in control of the game, and you get down to the red zone and your first instinct is, let me try and find some gadget trick play. Let me call a double pass off a reverse to Garrett Wilson off a jet motion. Let me call a tunnel screen to Braxton Berrios. Things like that. The timing just isn't there for me. And I want to see the Jets get into the red zone and not look to fool everybody else and have the cutest, most well-designed fancy play that's going to work. I want to see them take other teams' wills. I want to see them be aggressive in a way that's trust your offensive line on first down. Trust your running back I know he's an undrafted free agent in his second ever NFL game, but he's making people miss every time he touches the ball and he's getting upfield every time. Give him an opportunity on first down to pick up some positive yards. Find other ways other than calling the game like you're at your own 25-yard line. And I just think that the self-awareness from Michael Flora would have set them up to start drives better or to start down sets of downs better, where if you're in the red zone and it's 1st and 10 from the 26 and you start out 2nd and 10 or you start out 2nd and 13, that's a heck of a lot harder to try and get closer and get a first down than if you were able to pick up 4 or 5 yards at least. I think it starts there. And if you want to blame Michael Flora, and I'll be the first one to do it, yes, he's to blame here. But I also don't think that this is a game that we go, fire Michael Flora, he's terrible, he can't do the job, and we need to find someone else, because the offense still put up over 480 total yards, and they still had a quarterback throw for 370. And with a few other things that are different, and maybe not some drops, they do score a few touchdowns, and the score looks a lot better in the end. There's a lot of blame to go around here, but I don't think this should be a tear everything down moment whatsoever.
No, I definitely don't tear everything down because things are going really well. Like I'm one where I hate the instant reaction to the I guess, to the negative too much, where it's, after every play, it's got to be, all right, why are we calling this just because of it, just because it didn't work? If it worked, we'd have the opposite conversation. That happens way too much, in my opinion. And you're right. LaFleur had his moments in this game where you kind of scratch your head. But the offense operated to the point where they were getting in the red zone very, very quickly. And it was happening by big plays. And obviously Garrett Wilson's just kind of a special player, and he does what he does. But they were getting to the red zone in that second half, at least, very, very quickly. So things were working for them. They were racking up the yards. It just came, the timely calls, and what are you going to do? And kind of Andrew, to kind of go back to your point on, the motion. And for the last couple of weeks, we've kind of seen and I don't think we saw it yesterday, but for a couple of games, Mike LaFleur got into this habit of just kind of orbit motioning someone. And I'm not really sure what the point was. I mean, I get the point, but and no one was falling for whatever you kind of had going on there. And at some points, that orbit motion can easily turn into a penalty if the guy's coming down towards the line of scrimmage. It kind of seemed unnecessary, but I think the Jets have the players in the red zone, especially when you're really, really deep in the red zone. You're within that 5-yard line, where they can use the motion to their advantage with guys like Braxton Berrios, with guys like Elijah Moore, because when you look at it from a defensive standpoint, the motion is really difficult to guard. If you're in man coverage, obviously you'll have someone following him, but for the most part, at that point, the offensive play design is probably going to have something to where, if the ball's going to the motion man, you're trying to create traffic for the man defender at that point to kind of break him free. But for the other 10 defenders on the field, they got either their hands in the dirt or their feet on the ground. They're not moving laterally to that point. So you can kind of get a guy like Braxton or Elijah Moore, even Garrett Wilson, just because he could, do so many things. You can get them to that front pylon. The ball's just got to cross the plane. We're not, it doesn't have to be anything, crazy difficult, where, you have to scheme guys in the back of the end zone. Obviously you could do that too, but I just think, personnel wise, they have guys that you could put them in motion, hand them the ball, whether it's a jet sweep or really just, again, a kind of a quick little sprint out by Mike White. I know he's not the best at moving his feet, but, it's a difficult throw when you kind of have the motion guy going towards that front pylon, and it's just a quick drop back. That's probably one of the more difficult short throws in football. So if you get them just on a little sprint, it makes the throw a little bit easier. But just get guys moving. But you're right. This isn't a tear down type of moment. This is, we take a look at the film. Everyone's got their hand in the pot in terms of what went wrong, and then you just turn around. You got to play a really good Buffalo team, but you got to come with that same fight that they did yesterday. It's just sometimes it doesn't shake out the way you want it to shake out.
Yeah, there was absolutely no quit from this team. What was it, 26 going into halftime, and we just roared right back. It didn't seem like anything was gonna really stop us. And at some point, it was just like, all right, after all that, we actually have a great chance of winning. But I just still can't get over the red zone. You were saying, if it worked a couple times, we'd be having a completely different conversation. But the fact is, we were 1 for 6, so it didn't work a lot of the time, and it didn't seem to change at all. And another thing is, I feel like they're kind of force feeding Conklin a little bit, not just not just down the field, but also with tight end screens. I love Conklin, but at the same time, with these plays, I would rather put it in the hands of a more dynamic runner. I know there's no surprise in that, right? So, but at the same time, if you do it this much with Conklin, it's not a surprise that way either. So why not just maybe fake it to Conklin and go somewhere else, because at that point you can use him as a decoy, because we've gone to him so much on tight end screens. And I don't know if his hand size is small, but it just seems like he has a lot of drops, and they're not just drops. I feel like every time the ball hits his hands, it always pops in the air. Same with Davis. It's weird. Like it just always seems to pop up in a very vulnerable position. More so with White. I don't know. This happened a lot last year too with White. Is that balls just find the way to pop up in the air. I don't think he's really doing anything special with his throwing angles or the spin on the ball, but it just always seems to pop up. But with that said, I feel like White played very well considering he had 60 something dropbacks, and
57.
I mean, 57, well, close to 60.
57 pass attempts. So if you factor in other scrambles, it might have been over 60. Yeah.
Yeah. 59 dropbacks, 57 attempts, 31 completions for 54.4 completion percentage. Overall, those numbers sound great. But remember Zach Wilson against the Patriots the first game, that he had his first 300-yard game, but with all the turnovers really hindered any kind of celebration of those stats. But the two stats that really stick out to me with White are his big time throw percentage and his turnover worthy plays percentage. The big time throw is over 5%, which is very good, and I think it's a lot, almost double maybe of what Zach Wilson's has been the entire season. And then you got turnover worthy passes at 1.6, which is also very good. So he's taking care of the ball and he's making big time throws. None bigger than that fourth down throw to Davis. That was an amazing throw, and the more angles I see it from, it gets better and better. The same to that pass to Garrett Wilson on that long reception run. If only he stayed in bounds. But that was kind of the theme of the game. If only Moore drags his foot. If only Garrett Wilson keeps his foot in bounds. If only Berrios catches it. If only. But we could say that all game. And the fact is, we didn't. And that was the small little bit that kept us out of the win column.
Yeah, it is a game of inches, truly. And that's exactly what Garrett Wilson said after the game. And this was a perfect example of it. This is why the sport is so tough. This is why coaches talk about, every team is good. Every team has a chance. It comes down to a couple of crucial plays, and that can be the difference. And it's true. Where a few different things or one or two things goes differently for the Jets in this game and they get a win. And it really is that simple. I want to do something kind of off the cusp here, guys, but I think it's a good idea. And I think it's important for our listeners to understand. I don't ever want us, James, you're included in this by association now. Sorry. I don't want any of us ever to be the type of people that are going to spout criticism and not offer up any sort of solution, because I think it's a perfectly fair argument that any person with a microphone can find their way and criticize Michael Florer and go, oh, the red zone play calling was terrible and he needs to do better. Well, what plays would you call then? Right. What would you do differently? Are you going to be able to do anything any better? So I have 5 plays that off the top of my head I just came up with. Specifically, I'm thinking of the Jets' second to last opportunity to score, where they had a 1st and goal from the 4-yard line. They got a run play that got them 3 yards down to the 1. And then with about 2 minutes left in the game and knowing you're going forward on 4th down, they had 3 opportunities from the 1-yard line to score and turn the ball over on downs. Those plays were a run to Bam Knight that got stopped for no gain, an incomplete pass that was short to the right to Garrett Wilson that was off an RPO, according to Mike White. And the very last play was Berrios' drop that, again, according to Mike White, was an improvised route by Braxton Berrios, that he's supposed to start outside, fake going back in on the little bit of an angle route, and then go back to the outside again. And he saw that the Minnesota linebacker was sitting outside waiting for him, so he never came back outside. He just kept going to the inside where there was space. White saw him do that, and he was almost able to connect for the touchdown. So you have a run play on 1st down that gets you 3 yards, a run play that gets you nothing, and 2 incomplete passes, one of which was almost a score that wasn't designed by your offensive coordinator. You can have some improvement here. Here's the ideas that I had for any 2nd, 3rd, 4th down, whichever, time in the drive you want to call these. I think they could all work. First and foremost, I know they tried running the ball on 2nd down with Bam Knight and got no gain. I don't think trying it again on 3rd down from the 1 is the worst idea in the world, if you do it a little bit differently. So here's my idea. You get into a 21 personnel set with 2 running backs. You put Ty Johnson or James Robinson as the deep I back, and you put Bam Knight as the fullback. And you turn around and hand it off to Bam Knight on a fullback dive. One, that's going to draw the path of the Minnesota players that are shooting gaps. They're going to be looking for the running back. They're not may not have their eye on the ball and be able to key that Bam's going to get the ball on the inside. On top of that, you're limiting the amount of time between the snap and the ball carrier getting the ball. You're shortening the distance between where they have to go from behind the line of scrimmage to crossing the plane of the goal line. I think that can be an effective way to go about it. Quick rattle off a few other ones. You call a play action run where you have Braxton Berrios come across that motion, like you're saying, James, where you get in the red zone, you have the space to take advantage, and you got to get upfield. You have him come across, you call a play action, under center or split zone, whatever the Jets are going to call, and you throw it to Berrios off the flat off the motion. Yep. You let all the linebackers suck down because they're thinking it's an inside run and Berrios is a decoy. You flip it out to him, you let him stick the ball over the pylon. You call a reverse boot with Mike White. You have him lead out to the front side off a zone play, keep the ball, run around the backside. If Peyton Manning can do it at 37 years old, I think Mike White can score on it. We saw the Saints under Sean Payton for years do this with Michael Thomas, where they'd get into a 3-by-1 set and they'd motion Thomas under to a bunch alignment and they'd call a quick little snap and it's a tunnel screen where he goes from the outside receiver. He uses the 2 inside receivers in the bunch to block for him, catches it, sticks the ball over the pylon. They probably scored 15 touchdowns under Sean Payton with that play in the red zone. Last but not least, get into a 22 personnel set, get 2 running backs and 2 tight ends in the backfield, isolate Garrett Wilson to one side of the field if you absolutely don't want to run the ball, and let him run a slot fade or let him run the fade route. Let him do what we saw him do against Cleveland and get wide open. Let him do what we saw him do against the Bears and get wide open. Get him singled up with a one-on-one matchup and let him go beat his man. I think any of these 5 plays could have worked better than what we saw out of the Jets. I'd love to know what you guys think.
All right. I'm going to switch up one of the ones you said. Instead of Bam as the fullback, I'm going to have Bam as the lead back and Quinnen Williams as the fullback. You have
that could work.
Remember seeing him with the ball in his hand and how angry he ran the ball? If I see him lining up as a fullback, I immediately think that he's about to bulldoze some people over and clear a lane. And I would try that first on 3rd down. See if that works. If he can clear the lane for Bam to just find some daylight and jump into the end zone. If it doesn't work, I'm running the same exact formation with Quinnen as a fullback. But this time, I'm doing a naked bootleg and having CJ squirt out from his tight end position and hit him in the back corner of the end zone. Maybe have Conklin from the opposite side of the line leaking out the other way. Another one, if LaFleur really wants to be cute, let's do a pop pass. Just like a quick little pop pass to maybe to CJ again.
Yeah, let's do that on the 1 and not on 2nd and 7 at the 26.
Not in 2nd and 7, exactly. Those are the only 3 I would have changed.
So Andrew, I like the one where you have Bam as the fullback, and I wouldn't mind handing him the ball on with some sort of fullback dive there. What I would do to add to that though is whoever my running back is going to be, maybe it's yesterday James Robinson. I would have him run as though he's about to get a toss.
Yes.
And still hand the ball off, but I need Mike White to be a big part of this because I need him to execute the fake. You do that on 2nd down, and you just see how the Vikings defense reacts to the fake toss, essentially, right? Do they respect it? And hopefully they do, because then it probably opens up Bam for a touchdown. If it doesn't, maybe you tuck it away. But ultimately there, you kind of want to make them start to think, because I think if my memory serves me correctly, on that 2nd down run play, it got stopped because Harrison Smith just freaking blew the thing up.
Yes, because they called the same split zone run that they've called maybe 100 times a game all season.
Right. He saw it coming from a mile away. I mean, he's the veteran on that defense. He's also a really good football player. So, he saw that coming. He blew it up. I think the announcers called him like the eraser. I don't know if that's an actual nickname that he has.
The fixer.
The fixer. The fixer. Yeah. I knew it was something like that.
The
Thanks
fixer for the 32nd ranked pass defense in the NFL that gave up 480 yards to the Jets.
Yeah, there you go. And then for Garrett Wilson, that was one of mine where you go slot fade. Now, what I would do there is I try to split him out wide, but not too wide to where the fade becomes, kind of a non-efficient
you don't want to take
route.
the space away from where he can go. You
take the space away, and you also don't want to make it seem like, all right, if I'm all the way out there, then he's running a slant, and they maybe they put a safety right in that space there. I would actually go with Bam again as the fullback, but I'd offset him to the side of Garrett Wilson. This way, it kind of threatens the run to the strong side. Maybe they bring the safety closer to the tackle, the line of scrimmage. And if they actually bring him, or the safety linebacker, whoever it might be, if they do kind of bring him in that space, you can ultimately throw the fade to Garrett Wilson. You can keep the slant in play there, because if that space is open, I do trust Garrett to get the inside release there against whatever corner they were going to put on him. But that threat of the run to the strong side, the same side that Garrett Wilson's on, potentially leaves guys closer to the line of scrimmage to where, if they come up on the run, Garrett Wilson can either run a slant, or if it doesn't work out there, you trust him on the fade. You give a little hand signal, some kind of check with me between White and Garrett, so they know what's going on between each other. But yeah, I think you give some, autonomy to the players there to say, okay, here's what we're looking at. Here's what we see, route wise, at least for a guy like Garrett Wilson, you split him out wide. You either give him the fade or the option for the slant based on the formation or the alignment of the defense based on the formation that you're giving them, potentially in a run short yardage type of scene there.
Yeah, no, I like that too. And I completely agree that if you have Bam offset, that you're likely going to be influencing the safety to come down in a short yardage situation. You're going to guarantee the one-on-one with Garrett, and you're probably going to get inside leverage as a result. I'm all on board with that. You know what else none of us mentioned that might be even simpler than this and was the only touchdown the Jets scored all day? A quarterback
sneak. Three times,
right. Mike White's 6'4" and 220 pounds.
Yeah.
And we saw that even if he's going to get stood up on first contact, he might not immediately go down. So you get to the 1 yard line. It's been the only play that's gotten you in the end zone in your 5 trips now to that point, and you don't try it again. Not once. You don't not even on second and goal from the 1, do you give it a shot. And if it gets stopped on 2nd and 1, then you can say you tried it. But you get a running play to Bam Knight that is not a new running play. That's a running play that's leaving gaps for linemen, or in this case, safeties to shoot through. It's not any sort of a duo where there's double teams up front. You're not pinning and pulling. It's a zone blocking concept at the 1 yard line. And in my opinion, unless you're doing some sort of a true outside zone where you're really getting everyone flat and you're trying to go to the edge, I don't think that's the best time for those type of running concepts. We didn't even see the simplest thing they could have done, which was just let Mike White try and sneak the ball over the pylon. And this, to me, is where you have to come down with this game, where, Matt, I said it before, I'll say it again. There's a lot of blame to go around, and that's 100% true. That this is not a one person solely loss. This is not only on the backs of Michael Floor, and there was members of this team, offense, defense, special teams included, that all could have been better. But when you get 6 opportunities in the red zone and you come away with 1 touchdown, and it was a laboring event just to get that 1 touchdown, and you get back-to-back opportunities under 2 minutes in the red zone to score a touchdown and take the lead and win the game, and you come up empty twice, that's unacceptable. And I think we can both say that in crunch time, in those 2 situations, those last 2 red zone possessions, I don't think it was execution from the players that was the problem. I think it was execution from the offensive coordinator. And I don't want this to be, like I said, and James, I know you concurred with this, I don't want this to be the burn everything down, Michael Floor is awful, because it's not. But this is something where if we get into a game in the future and we still see these type of struggles, it's going to be an area they're absolutely going to have to focus on. And Robert Saleh, as the head coach, is going to have to start maybe supplying his own ideas for plays to get them in the end zone, because you cannot, like I said to start, win in the NFL kicking field goals. The Jets probably have one of the best field goal kickers in the NFL right now, in Greg Zuerlein, with how he's played. They still lost. Greg Zuerlein hit a Jets record 60 or 61 yard field goal. I think it was 60 yard field goal, longest in team history. Went 4 for 4, has been electric all season, did everything he could to propel the team to victory, and it wasn't enough. You can't win in this game scoring 3 points on a drive. Going 1 for 6 is not good enough. This has to be better from Michael Floor.